Today I'm talking about the Insta360 One R, the 4K lens. 5.38 miles, 90 minutes, 15 seconds per mile, 142 beats per minute, going for a snowy first run with the Insta360 One R and the action camera lens, or the 4K lens. But before I get to my detailed thoughts about this camera or this lens in particular, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a camera that I purchased with my own money. No one sent it to me, no one's paying me to make this video, and no one's paying me to use the camera. And no one's going to get a chance to preview any of this footage before you get a chance to view this video on YouTube. Now, with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the Insta360 One R. Now, what we have here is what Insta360 calls an interchangeable lens action camera. And the parts disassemble. And so you've got the bottom part, which is the battery pack, and then you've got the different attachments. This is the brains of the operation. You're going to use this for all the different mods that you're using. It has the touch screen on the back of it. It has a speaker, microphones, and also the SD card slot. And then this is the mod that we're going to be talking about today, which is the action camera lens, or the 4K lens. Now, there's two other mods that can go with it. One is the 360 mod. I don't want to call it lens because 360 cameras have two lenses, two cameras, and there's also a 1-inch sensor lens, which I don't have. But whichever one you want to use, you attach them and then you reassemble it, put it all together. And when you do, this now becomes waterproof, which is really nice. So you don't have to worry about splashes, or if you're gonna jump in a pool, go swimming with it, you can do those things. You'll need a different housing if you're going to go to any depth. And then once you have the camera, you then put it inside a cage, and then this can attach to a standard GoPro mount. And so that's how this works. Now, to give you an idea of my use case, the way that I typically film is to shoot at 1920 by 1080, so regular HD. But I shoot it at a high frame rate, 120 frames per second, and then I slow that down to create slow motion footage that I can then look at. And then I'll bring the camera with me on my training runs. I'll bring it with me to races, so any other kinds of events where I'm out and I might want to capture footage, that's where I'll bring it, and that's the frame rate and resolution that I typically shoot it at. And so that's the use case that I'm approaching this camera with. Let's talk about the things that are really great about this camera. Very impressed with the image quality. It's one of the better GoPro competitors that I've seen in terms of image quality. Today's footage was a little bit rough in terms of it was really low light. It was towards the end of the afternoon into the evening, and it was overcast and snowing, so made for some difficult shooting conditions. I thought the camera did really well. I also have footage from another day that I took this camera out with me where it was really nice and bright, so you'll get a chance to see some footage there as well where lighting conditions are a lot better. The other thing that's great about this is this screen. And now, with the way that these mods work, you can actually switch the orientation of the screen. You can have it looking at you, or you can put it in the back, more like how you would see with a GoPro. Now, it is a little bit small, and it is a little bit difficult to kind of navigate on a screen this size, but I do like the option of being able to have it face me, because for most of the time when I'm using an action camera, it's facing me. So even though I put it typically on a long stick and I can't exactly see because the screen is small what's going on in frame, I can generally have an idea of what's in frame, but more importantly, I can tell if it's recording properly, and I can also see very easily what is the frame rate and the resolution that I'm shooting at, because that's something that's also very important to me. So those are all really good things. Another thing that's really good is the image stabilization. I take this thing with me running. I could technically probably put any action camera on a gimbal, but for me to run with on a daily basis, that's kind of a lot of stuff, a lot of things to turn on and off every time I want to take a a clip. I just don't want to deal with it. If I can get the really good image stabilization, even if it's EIS, that's something that I pretty much need to have in an action camera. And I don't think this is quite GoPro Hero 8 caliber image stabilization, but it's really good. One of the better GoPro competitors in terms of image stabilization that I've seen. So very impressed with that. That's all the good stuff. The thing that I don't like about this, there's lots of things that I don't like about this camera. And ultimately, I'm going to tell you, don't buy the camera for this lens. There's a lot of things that I don't understand, some decisions that they made that just don't make sense to me and that really slow me down. So for the first thing that I will do is, I didn't take this. Sometimes I have a rig where I can put 2 action cameras onto a selfie stick at the same time and record. I didn't do that for this particular case. I really wanted to focus just on what this camera could do first, and then maybe I would make a separate video later. I probably won't at this point, but I will still refer to the GoPro just as a comparison point, because you've probably worked with at least one GoPro or action camera before. When you work with a regular action camera, you bring the camera with you, you record the footage, and then you get the footage off the camera and you edit the footage. Pretty straightforward. With this, there's an intermediary step. When you record the footage, it doesn't record it as an MP4 or any sort of file format that your video editor can use right away. You have to put it into the Insta360 desktop app or through the app on your phone, and then you have to render it out. Now, when I reviewed the Insta360 One R's 360 mod, that all made sense because you have 2 cameras. I'm capturing 360 footage all around me. And what I do is from there, instead of just exporting out a 360 video, I'll tell the camera like where to look and when to look. So there's some decisions that I have to make, decisions that I have to tell the software to make in terms of what the ultimate final video that I'll then insert into my video editor will be. So all that processing makes sense. None of those options or decisions that I could make apply to regular 1920 by 1080 footage or action camera footage. There's no decisions that I can make. The only thing that I can do by dropping this footage into the Insta360 Studio app basically is to export it. So that in and of itself, like from a conceptual point, makes no sense. Why it doesn't just record as an MP4 is mind-boggling to me. I'm sure there's lots of technical reasons, but they should have figured out a way to make that not be a decision that I have to deal with. The other thing is, I've done this 2 times, or a couple of times, more than 2, but when I batch exported it, and maybe this is just, maybe I need to test this a little bit more, I selected all of my clips from one particular day, batch exported them, which seemed like, okay, that's fine. But then when I tried to do that, it took forever to render. And all we're doing is we're not processing, stitching 360 footage, it's just regular footage. And it should just be exporting it to an MP4. That took forever. And if you ever switch away from whatever the desktop app and switch away to whatever else you want to work on, it stops the processing in the back. It just won't batch export in the background. Or if it does, it like crawls slowly. And so it just took hours to be able to do that. It took longer for me to get regular action camera footage out of this camera into my video editor than it took me to make all the decisions and do all the post-processing that I have to do with my 360 footage. I don't shoot 360 footage on a daily basis because that extra step takes so long. This made shooting regular footage take longer than shooting and working with 360 footage. So I was immensely frustrated. The other thing that I did was I one by one exported and then created an export queue. That seemed to work a little bit faster, about as fast as I would expect. So that was workable, but still a super annoying step that I shouldn't have to do. So that was just super frustrating. In and of itself, that is like a deal breaker for me and this little camera. The other thing that is super annoying is that the way that Insta360 One R handles audio.
It is Wednesday afternoon. I'm trying to get into an audio test with the Insta360 One R, I don't know what to call this, but the not 1-inch sensor, regular action camera sensor. Anyway, I tried to get audio from it before when I took all the other footage that we saw earlier in this video, but the Insta360 Studio desktop app, I couldn't figure out a way to retrieve the audio. I filmed it at 4K 60 frames per second. And so when it plays back in Insta360 Studio app, if there's a frame rate higher than 30, Insta Studio, the desktop app, slows it down for you. In so doing, it also obliterates the audio for whatever reason. Now previously, I used to be able to tinker with the frame rate. I thought I could do it inside the regular desktop app, but I couldn't figure out a way to do it now. And so today, I'm taking this 4K footage at 30 frames per second. Hopefully it retains the audio so you can test it. I think it should be the same as the results I got from the 360 mod, the video test, because I don't think there's different microphones. But I could be wrong, so I thought I'd do the test anyway. So here it is. Got it now at 4K, 30 frames per second. So also you could see how the stabilization does at 4K at 30 frames per second, in case some of you are going to use this for running footage and talking to the camera. I will say though that if this is the only way, absent having to edit the audio talking portions on the phone and then sending that to my video editor, which I don't really like that idea. But if this is the only way to get audio footage working inside the app, that's going to be super annoying. I hope that's not the case, because there's some major workflow issues with this camera.
I don't know where the audio goes. I can't find it. I can't bring it back. I can't change it so that it's not playing in slow motion anymore and make it play at the regular playback speed. The audio just disappears. I can't get it. I don't know where it is. If any of you guys know where it is, let me know. I would love to know, but I can't. The only way that you can get audio captured on this camera is by shooting at 30 frames per second, whether that's 4K or 1080 or whatever. There's some intermediate resolutions that you can shoot at as well. And even then, I don't think the audio is great. It's good. It's okay. It's not that different from what you capture because the microphones aren't on the lens. They're on the part that doesn't change. You're still getting the same audio quality that I've done some other tests on already. So it's okay. I think one of the things that people really underestimate or easily overlook is how good GoPro deals with audio and difficult audio conditions, like when you're running and there's always going to be wind, when it's also windy or there's lots of ambient noise. GoPro does such a good job without any extra stuff. It becomes really apparent when you're using other cameras.
All right, just past the elite water stations at about the 10K mark, coming in at about 44 and a half minutes. Feeling good.
Now I know that you can connect with Bluetooth to a set of earbuds, but it just seems like a lot of work for me to capture most of my footage, and maybe I'm the only one that has this problem, but it seems like a lot of work for me to capture most of my footage at 1080 and then say, okay, now I want to shoot a clip that has audio on it, take my gloves off, it's winter time, turn on the camera, get into the settings, switch to a resolution that shoots to a frame rate, switch to a frame rate that's 30 frames per second, and then either turn on my Bluetooth earbuds to be connected to this or leave it and not listen to music if I wanted to listen to music, and just leave it connected to that the entire time for that 1 or 2 or 3 clips of audio. So it just seems like a lot of work, because then I also then have to remember, once that's done, change the frame rate back. Otherwise I won't get any more slow motion footage at the end for the rest of my run. So it just seems like a lot of work, even if that audio feature works well. Like the rest of the workflow, it doesn't make how, yes, I can easily connect other mics to this, but if the rest of the workflow is unworkable or is just super frustrating, it makes me not want to do it. Those extra steps that I have to go through that I don't have to go through for this camera that has better image, better stabilization, and better audio, what am I getting for all that effort? What I'm getting presumptively is the ability to change lenses. So then I could take this out, take it apart, and then put a different lens onto this thing. But I don't see myself actually, when am I doing this? Am I doing this before the run? Am I doing this in the middle of my run? It seems I'm not going to be able to do this while running. I'd have to stop and then have to put everything back, take apart, put the new lens back on, and then I could start running again. So it's not something I could do during the middle of a race. It's something that I could probably deal with for a lot of my training runs. But at that point, if I already have to stop and get something else out of my bag, then why don't I just bring another camera with me? So that's kind of like the thing is like, at that point, why don't I just leave the 360 mod on this thing all the time and just get a GoPro? And then I could switch out the mounting if I want to, or I can make a double mount, which I've done before with the Insta360 Go, where I have a 360 camera on one end and a regular action camera on the other end of a stick. Those are some options as well. Now I can see like it might make sense because they bundle it. You get the twin edition, like I bought the twin edition. You get the 360 camera and the regular action camera mod at the same time. But like, I feel like most people don't buy like a 360 camera as their first action camera. At some point, they've probably picked up an action camera somewhere. And so I would rather they keep shooting on that and then get just the standalone 360 camera. There's just no benefit in my mind to having this. And I would probably, from my gut, with somewhat admittedly limited experience with this, compare this to maybe like a GoPro Hero 6. So this is an 8. So it reminds me a lot of the GoPro Hero 6 in terms of the image quality, the level of stabilization, and the fact that it sits inside a cage. So I think that you can get the Insta360 One R, just the 360 mod, although I'm not sure that they're actually delivering on that yet. So in theory, you can get that, just the One R. So you can get a waterproof 360 camera. Good. Then you could buy either a certified refurbished or an old stock but new GoPro 6. I'm not sure if the math is going to be pretty similar because like I guess the thing that they're trying to do is save you some money, but you get two cameras at the same time. But I'd rather you just get two cameras. That's just kind of my take on it. Maybe there's something else that I'm missing. If I'm missing something else, let me know in the comments. If there's a way to get that audio back, let me know in the comments. I couldn't figure it out. So far, like the frustrations way outweigh any of the benefits, and I don't think that there's a ton of benefits to this, just because there are other really compelling options out there in this very crowded space. There's lots of other action cameras to consider that are very good. So I'm having a hard time really wrapping my head around why anyone would really pick this one. So maybe you guys can help me out with that. So before I go for today, I do want to remind you guys about the charity run for this week. This week it's Yu Sze Tong, and he's going to be running the Tokyo Marathon in just a couple of months and raising money for the Nippon Foundation. I donated $70 of my own money to Yu Sze Tong's fundraising efforts, and I'll post a link in the description in case you'd like to learn more. And also, while you're down there, please feel free to also check out the link to Unived on the US site. On US purchases, Unived, they've been inspired by the Charity Runner program that you guys have all been joining me in supporting. And they're gonna give you guys a 5% discount if you use the promo code, and they'll send 5% to the Charity Runner of the Week. So we're so happy to have Unived on board and supporting one of our fellow runners. So thank you to them. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. I wish I had better news to report about this camera, but thanks so much for making it to the end of the video anyway, and I will see you tomorrow.
Yo, what's going on?